Good morning. It is August 20th. It's a Thursday. Time to take a break with Drake, America's Bible teacher. Today we're covering we're going through the centuries, covering lots of folks in the Seven Streams Bible calendar, and we're talking about heroes today.
And heroes it is, and we need to keep these heroes in front of us because they inspire us to also do great things for God. Who was the missionary that said, expect great things from God, attempt great things for God? I would even perfect that a little bit, attempt great things with God. I want to read you about those who have done great things and say, hey, we can do great things too. Biggest thing that hit me when I was finishing college in Jerusalem and the whole country of Israel, 1985, I'm standing where Abraham was and offered Isaac, where Isaiah was and ministered and died, where Abraham was buried, where David did his exploits, and Gideon and on, Samson. And I thought, you know something? These guys please the Lord. So can I. The biggest thing that hit me in the country. How did they do this stuff? They did it by faith. By faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. By faith, Abel offered God a better sacrifice than Cain did. By faith, he was commended as a righteous man when God spoke well of his offerings. This is Hebrews 11.
Good morning, Mike Yates.
Hey,
yes,
Mike.
Hebrews 11.
By faith, he still speaks, Abel does, even though he is dead. By faith, Enoch was taken from this life. And without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear built an ark to save his family. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. Do you feel like that sometimes? By faith, he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob. By faith, Abraham, even though he was past age, and Sarah herself was barren, was enabled to become a father, because he considered him faithful who had made the promise. All these people were still living by faith when they died. And they did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance. By faith, Abraham, when God tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob. By faith, Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each of Joseph's sons and worshipped as he leaned on the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph, when his end was near, he spoke about the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt and gave instructions about his bones. Don't leave me here. I want to be in the promised land, even if it's just my bones. By faith, Moses' parents hid him for 3 months after he was born, because they saw he was no ordinary child. By faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. By faith, he left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. By faith, he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of blood, so that the destroyer of the firstborn would not touch the firstborn of Israel. By faith, the people passed through the Red Sea, as on dry land. But when the Egyptians tried to do so, they were drowned. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell after the people had marched around them for 7 days. By faith, the prostitute Rahab because she welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who were disobedient. And what more shall we say? There's Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, and gained what was promised, who shut the mouths of lions, quenched the fury of the flames, and escaped the edge of the sword, whose weakness was turned to strength, and who became powerful in battle and routed foreign armies. Women received back their dead, raised to life again. Others were tortured and refused to be released so that they might gain a better resurrection. Some faced jeers and flogging, while still others were chained and put in prison. They were stoned, they were sawed in two. That was Isaiah. They were put to death by the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, destitute, persecuted, mistreated. The world was not worthy of them. They wandered in deserts and mountains and in caves and holes in the ground. These were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised. They're waiting for us still. God had planned something better for us so that only together with us would they be made perfect. People are still doing heroic things in the name of the Lord. And we are putting as many as we can, without losing our minds, in this new Christian calendar. I don't want people to forget about the great things that are being done in God's name, in Christ's name, through the power of the Holy Spirit. There are people living today who are still doing amazing things. There have been so many that have lived since the Bible was finished in 90 A.D., and they finished putting it together in 200 something A.D. once they had it all.
Good morning, Denise.
All put together. Hello, Denise. In the calendar that we're making, and I took out all, we don't need the pagan holidays. I don't want to know when they honor the dead and when this pagan guy killed a bunch of believers.
You just want to put the holidays that you celebrate.
Yeah.
That's
and
pretty much
we
it.
put George Washington's birthday back in, by the way.
Good morning, Elisa.
Hi, Lisa. We took and put Abraham Lincoln's birthday back in. Those two American heroes have been taken out. The kids growing up today don't know who Abraham Lincoln is. They know who Marilyn Monroe is, they know who Taylor Swift is, they know who Beyonce is, but they don't know who Abraham Lincoln is. That is pathetic. They don't know who George Washington is. That is wrong. We're putting all that back in. We're making a Christian calendar for 2021, and I want you to have one too. And you come to these dates and you go, oh my goodness, that was when he was born? It was this day? Wow, this is also my Aunt Millie's birthday, or whatever is going to strike you. But you need to know these things, and you'll come up to some heroes that we know about that you may not have heard of. Put them in the search in your computer. Oh my goodness, he's the person that did that? When I'm putting this together, I remembered my own grandfathers, both of them, their funeral. And I thought, wow, my grandfather his favorite song was whatever. And I come up to this guy, and I'm thinking, he's the guy that wrote this song, because I put it in my calendar. I'm thinking, we sang his most prominent hymn at my grandfather's funeral. I remember that. Oh my goodness. That's why we're putting this together. It's not an exercise in futility. When you come up to, honey, what's the first day? We're just going to do a sampling, one day from each month.
Sure. How about we start with January 17th?
Oh, okay. Okay, January 17th. On January 17th.
Good morning, Mary Kuipers.
Mary Kuipers. St. Anthony died 356 A.D. He was 106 years old. Born 250 A.D., died 356 A.D. He was a vibrant, joyful minister. He taught, he counseled, he mentored. Everybody came to him. He was joyful at 105 years old. He had a healing ministry that everybody within 500 miles knew about. St. Anthony we put him in. When you come to January 17th, you'll see him and you go, oh my goodness, I got to read something about this guy.
Good morning, Twyla.
This same date, January 17th.
Yeah, several dates.
Several heroes were
Heroes
born,
on the 17th.
died on this day. Catherine Booth, born 1829. She and her husband founded the Salvation Army. An annual reminder of that is very important. F.F. Bosworth, you may not have heard of this guy, listen to this. My mentor for my first book that came out, an editor, knew this guy personally. Born 1877. He had a roaring healing ministry that everywhere he went, he was what was going on in that town. Every region he entered, he lit up. One day at his healing crusade, the PA failed. I think he was in Ohio. And he addressed 44,000 people without a loudspeaker, and they all could hear. F.F. Bosworth. We just put him, so when you encounter him, you'll just read a sketch about him and go, oh my goodness. What's another date, honey?
Well, how about February 21st?
February 21.
We'll just jump into February.
Yeah, each year on February 21st and the rest of the days of the month, you'll run into, on February 21st, Mildred Cable. Born 1878, intrepid explorer, author, and missionary to China. I read about Mildred Cable and I thought, I'm putting this lady in here. She did stuff in China. A group of 3 ladies, they just took off like musketeers. And they did stuff. I'm thinking, where do you get the guts to do this, man? You're nuts. Mildred Cable, February 21. You need to be reminded about it every day. Eric Liddell died in China on February 21, 1945. Olympic gold medalist, 21 years prior. He's the subject of Chariots of Fire. Guess who else died February 21? Billy Graham died at 99 years of age. He was the great evangelist.
You'll also notice that the Bible reading of the day is on that date.
Yeah,
So,
we've scheduled out the Bible reading for the year, and at the end of each week, when you come to the Acts to Revelation section, at the end of each week, you'll get we give you the rundown of the highlights of the week, and you'll notice how similar they all are. There's a thread that God used to keep us all alive and encouraged. And we have the Bible reading and we have heroes of that day. You will be very inspired. Let's jump to what, honey?
Let's see. Let's go to...
Let's skip March. I want to keep moving. I don't want to run out.
Go to April?
Yeah, go to April.
April 15th?
Pick a day in April.
Tax day?
Oh, April 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1865, April 15th. Abraham Lincoln died. Go to the Ford Theater in D.C. and that'll stick with you for days. Corrie ten Boom was born 1892, April 15th. She died April 15th on her birthday, on her 91st birthday, 1983. She and her family did the hiding place in Holland and hid Jews from the Nazis until they were all caught.
She's the only one in the calendar that we have that was born and died on the same day.
Yeah, she died on her 91st birthday.
Oh, Elise's birthday is April 15th. There we
Right
go.
on.
Another saint of the faith.
May what, honey? Yeah, no kidding.
Let's see. How about May 27th?
May 27. John Calvin died 1564. Oh my goodness. The Reformation was just 40-something years into its progress. John Calvin wrote Calvin's Institutes. It is the most airtight, blisteringly perfected, titanium solid theology, and his logic is astounding. There's hardly been a historian that's matched his logic. Calvin's Institutes were studied by the guys who wrote the U.S. Constitution. John's Calvin thinking affected what became the most prosperous and free country in history. John Calvin studied Augustine. So where John Calvin is really the father of the thinking of the Western Hemisphere. Augustine's the grandfather of the Western world through his thinking and his writing. Interesting. Julia Ward Howe was born May 27th, 1819. She wrote Mine Eyes.
I must have had an older version of the calendar up here because I think I took this from the 2019 version. So, wow, that's a good one, Drake. As you can see, we add people as we know of them. But go ahead, Julia Ward Howe.
She wrote Mine Eyes Have Seen the Glory of the Coming. That song got us through the Civil War. Ralph Carmichael was born May 27th. In 1927, he's a legend in Christian music. I think he was in Southern California, and I think he's still alive. I don't know if he's retired there, but look up his music, Ralph Carmichael. Just so inspiring. Let's jump to June, honey.
Sure. We'll do June 9th.
June 9th,
We'll
okay.
see if there's extra people on here from year to year.
William Carey died 1834, June 9th. What a giant. He is the first to start a college and a university in India. An Englishman went to India and he cared for and raised and taught the impoverished. He ended sati, the compulsory burning of the widow. They wanted to train widows in India to honor their husbands. And to do that...
And keep them alive.
Yeah, you care for your husband, you honor him, you keep him alive, because when he dies, the day he dies, we burn you alive on the fire. That makes women really want to keep their husbands alive. Why not just love your wife, and then she'll want you to stay alive? You know, well, in India, they threatened them with burning, and they did it. William Carey was the first man in history to say, "This is so horrible, I'm going to push it through until you abolish this." It was a satanic level wrongness. William Carey learned 40 languages. Every June 9th, you'll be reminded of his death in 1834. Also born 1981 on June 9th, just 39 years ago, Daniel Kolenda was born. Daniel Kolenda is 39 years old. And get this stat about him. He joined Reinhard Bonnke in leading 80 million people to Christ in Africa. 25 million of those can be attributed to Daniel Kolenda's preaching. You'll be reminded of his birthday every year on June 9th. We have met and dined with Daniel Kolenda. What a fireball, what a saint, what a great man. Family man, too. July, let's jump to July, honey.
Okay, July 29th.
William Wilberforce.
Yes.
Died 1833 after he personally, it's him personally who was responsible for ending slavery in the British Empire. William Wilberforce did that. His movie Amazing Grace is wow. Wow, wow, wow. William Wilberforce, you can't forget about this guy. Thomas Chisholm, he was born 1866 on July 29th. He was a school teacher at 16 years of age.
They started earlier back then.
I wasn't even paying attention until I was 19 as a student. This guy was a teacher at 16. He edited a newspaper at 21. He started that. He wrote, "Great is thy faithfulness." Dun, 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 dun. That's worth remembering. Robert Jaffray died July 29th, 1945. He opened up Vietnam to the gospel in 1911. My grandparents were right behind him 13, 14 years. Honey, who do we have in August? What's in August?
August. Let's go to August 20th.
August. Oh, today. Bernard of Clairvaux died 1153. Today.
Yeah, I sure have an older version of this because I know you have more people on.
Yeah.
This is what happens, everybody. Every year, Drake says, let's go find a few more people for the calendar.
Oh, we've got to add these people.
So
sure.
There's more now than what you see here
Bernard
on the screen.
of Clairvaux was a powerful preacher in France. He wrote, Jesus, the very thought of thee. That's still sung today, 850, 70, 60 years later. The guy was a giant. Francis Asbury was born 1745. He came to the colonies. He founded the Methodist Episcopals in the newly liberated USA. He traveled thousands of miles on horseback in the American colonies to make sure the people back in the woods got the gospel as well. There were no A&Ws to stop and refresh at by then.
Yep.
William Booth died 1912. He founded the Salvation Army, and he died today, 1912, 108 years ago. Michael Green was born in 1930. Michael Green, he edited the Jesus Library. He taught at Oxford. He was the chair of the Apologetics Department and New Testament at Oxford. I met Michael Green December 2015. What a man. He and his wife, wow, they welcomed me in like I was an angel unaware. They were so gracious. They just put out a spread of snacks, and he said, well, if you'll excuse me, I must go address this, and he had to go speak that night. I got an email from his widow 3 days ago. I got tears in my eyes. I thought, wow, Rosemary. Michael Green, you need to know. September, what do we have in September, honey?
September 27th.
William Tyndale was born 1494. He was 11 years younger than Luther. He became involved in the Reformation in England. He translated the Bible into English, and those who didn't want people who spoke English to know the scriptures burned him alive. You need to know about this guy's birthday. George Mueller was born 1805, and he headed the Ashley Down Orphanage in Bristol. He cared for over 10,000 orphans in his life and opened 117 schools to make sure those that could not afford education got one. George Mueller did that. I'm going to jump one. Amy Semple McPherson was born September 27th. Whoops, she died 1944 on this day, and she was a pioneer in media, using media to enhance ministry. Quite a visionary. She founded the Foursquares. October.
Yes, October 3rd.
St. Francis of Assisi died October 3rd, 1226 AD. He wrote songs and sermons, and he so loved preaching sermons, he would just preach and practice and keep preaching. Sometimes they looked out, well, who's he preaching to? Looked out, there'd be a flock of birds on the ground. He's preaching to the birds. Francis of Assisi wrote, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace where there is, great guy. Still inspires people today. 700, 800 years later. Chuck Smith died October 3rd, 2013. We were in Los Angeles when he died. That was a funeral. He founded the Calvary Chapel. We don't want to forget about him. November
1st.
Martin Luther was born November 1st, 1483.
Wow, I'm surprised I don't have that on this older version of the calendar.
Yep, that's why we update this baby.
Yeah, that's right.
We want you to have a 2021 calendar.
Yeah, it's not quite done yet.
It will remind you, but send us a note right away.
Yeah.
Send us your contact information, and we will print another one for you. I want you to have it. It's going to be cheaper than any calendar you buy at Staples or Office Depot.
I'm going to put a link in the chat.
Yeah. John Bunyan was born 1628. He wrote The Pilgrim's Progress. Seculars are even fascinated with this book about Christian growth, and it's even taught in schools and departments where they don't believe any of it. It's so beautifully inspiring written. November 1st, John Peterson was born during the 1950s, 60s, and 70s when I was a kid. John Peterson, during those years, he wrote 1,000 Christian songs and wrote 35 Christian cantatas, Christmas specials, Easter specials. What a guy. Dennis Bennett died 1991. He was an English priest who came to America, and he was very pivotal in the charismatic renewal movement. He was the preacher at St. Mark's Episcopal in Van Nuys, California. When Jim Caviezel got off the set and The Passion of the Christ came out, Jim Caviezel, the next Sunday after that came out, it was Lent 2004, Jim Caviezel spoke at St. Mark's Episcopal Church in Van Nuys, California. There was no place to sit. It was packed. And while he talked, you could have heard a pin drop. Dennis Bennett was the pastor there long before. December, we'll just do one stretch in December. What do you have, honey?
Well, I have 14 to 16.
Okay, well, we do that. George Washington died 1799, December 14th. The founder, the main general, and the first president of the USA. As he was dying in 1799, George Washington made a statement. He said, "Open schools all over the country. The children need to be taught how to read the Bible. They've got to read the Bible, or this country will lose its freedom almost immediately." That was ordered, and revival broke out very shortly, and that has triggered and steered American history ever since. Revivals still break out when people do what George Washington said. December 15th, I think it was, Albert Benjamin Simpson was born, 1843. He founded the CMA, Christian and Missionary Alliance, which sent and is still sending thousands of missionaries across the world. December 15th, Donald McGavern was born in 1897. He's the founding dean of the School of World Mission in Pasadena, California. Donald McGavern spoke at our school right before he died. He couldn't see anymore, and someone else read his material to us, and we all got to meet Donald McGavern right before he died, I think in 1988, 1990, somewhere right in there. Oral Roberts died 2009. He founded ORU and is an amazing medical school even to this day. George Whitefield was born 1714 on December 15th. George Whitefield, he is the original, extremely prominent preacher who addressed most of the American colonies. When he traveled, Virginia, into Georgia too, some clear to Boston, everywhere George Whitefield went, the town emptied out and listened to him preach. This guy was a powerhouse. We want you to know about this. And we have, probably 500, 800 more people that as we read Hebrews 11, you go, wow, let's remember these people. There's also people today that have lived through history, and we need to today not forget about them. And we will help you and make sure that you never forget about them, because we'll always remind you of their birth date and their death date, all the dates we have. We have the date of Pocahontas' funeral, a great Christian woman. We don't know when she was born or when she would die, but we do know when her funeral was. That's going in there for the 21 calendar. How do you like that? Honey, anything else?
I just wanted to show
it's time.
The cover of the calendar. So I just threw that up on the screen there. And it's a waterfall from Iceland. Yeah,
I was at that waterfall last October. So I thought, ooh, this would be a good cover for our calendar. 2021. So we're doing that. The Lord is with you this day. If you'd like to join us and help keep this whole thing afloat and going, we really invite you to do that. We need to work together on this. We can't do this without help. And we thank you for that. People are starting to realize, whoa, hey, let's put wind in their sails as we sail the 7 streams as well. God be with you. Is that everything, dear?
That's it.
God be with you. Love from us to you. Amen.